Hello, my name is Alan Frost. I'm a partner and head up the management consulting team here at Mazars in the UK. In this video, Dan Breger, an associate director, will talk you through the things you need to consider when in the midst of a crisis.
Failing to prepare is preparing for failure, and you have 72 hours to get it right when you talk about crisis management. We help organisations to understand and reflect on the impact of risks facing their organisation, both from an internal and an external perspective. Put the governance structures in place so they understand who is responsible and accountable for responding, both in terms of what we call gold, silver and bronze level decision making, and help develop the plans to outline what they would be doing during a crisis response, which would include communications and their communication strategy. Subsequently, organisations look to exercise and test their plans to ensure their people understand what they're doing and the plans are fit for purpose. And again, this is an area where we can support and develop robust plans which are fit for purpose within that 72-hour window. So what are the key considerations when responding to a crisis? If you put your mind back to 7/7, you may remember that for the first of those 72 hours, we didn't know what was going on. There wasn't any clear information coming out and a lot of sitting around waiting if you had any sort of responsibility at the time. Likewise, if you go back to the volcanic ash cloud disruptions, again, there was a lot of confusion and lack of information, clarity around what was going on. So when responding to a disruptive event, critical is to get the right people around the table, whether that's a physical table or in a virtual environment, and we can help with this. But who are these right people? It's difficult to know when you don't have the right information, but what we do know is it's much easier to stand people down if you don't need them than to stand them up when they're in the midst of a crisis. So given any disruptive event, is there an HR implication? Are your people unsafe? Is there a technological implication? Do you need IT disaster recovery? Is there a facilities issue? Do you have an unavailability of facilities? These are all questions that you need to ask, but you have to have the right people in the room to ask these sorts of questions. But picking up on that point, do we have to be in a physical environment to respond to a crisis? In recent history, we haven't been in a physical environment to do anything, let alone respond to crises. And even more so in the normal working environments that we've been operating for decades, we are often at other sites, in other regions, still doing our job. And because you're not front and centre or in the room, that doesn't mean you don't have a role to play in a crisis, especially if that role has been documented, determined in your governance structures. So no, you don't need to be physically present to respond to a crisis, but we do need to make sure, and we do make sure through our systems, that you have the access that you need to be responding.